What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time.
You're listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
Hello, everybody. It's Kyle from Unlocking Your Inner Strength and unlockingyourinnerstrength.com once again. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 37. We're coming up on that 1-year anniversary. Be a couple months out, but we're getting there week by week. Thank you for everybody that's been sharing the show with their friends and leaving reviews. That's been really cool to see. In today's episode, I'm going to go over how to be a mind magician. This stuff I find fascinating. And yes, I will get back to fitness and nutrition stories and my knowledge base for next week's show. However, this stuff is based in mind mapping in brain science. And the reason I'm so fascinated by it is because everything the body does and everything the brain does is tied into the nervous system. If you do not understand the nervous system on a basic level, then you can never make your brain the best it could be or your body the best it can be. Have you ever sat across from somebody and gotten that gut feeling that there was negativity in the air or that you really didn't like being around that person? Or perhaps it's a certain environment that you're in frequently. Could it be at work or the gym you go to or somewhere at your house? And it just puts you on edge. Well, the nervous system doesn't lie. We're going to get to that in great depth in today's show, hopefully with some stuff that you can start to put to use right away. I will be having multiple shows on this body language topic because there's way too much to cover for one show. The first thing I want to do, though, is go over something really cool from one of the books I just finished about body language and human relations, and that is something known as the friend equation. You can use this to create a friend, any type of relationship, or to pull out of any type of relationship. You have 4 factors when it comes to relationships: proximity, how close are you in physical relation to the other person, then frequency, which is how often are you in that person's sphere or around that person, duration, how long are you hanging out with that particular person, and intensity, what is the intensity of your interaction when you're together. So you have proximity, frequency, duration, and intensity. You could play around with this on paper all you'd like, but let's think of if your frequency was not great. Let's say you had a long distance relationship. So frequency is low, proximity is low. When you are together with that person to make this work, the duration has to be quite high, meaning if you were there for the weekend, you're going to spend all 48 hours together. And the intensity has to be very high to make up for the lack of frequency or proximity. It's actually fun. I find it fun to put this stuff on paper and kind of go through it. Okay, if this is high, this has to be low. If this is low, this has to be high. And just figuring stuff out, because the more you know with human relations, the more you're going to be able to build a great sphere of influence around yourself and people that you hang out with. Remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. With that being said, there's been times in my life when I've had to cut friends out, and I still consider them friends. However, their philosophy of life did not match up with mine. So as I began to get more serious about leading a life that I wanted to lead as far as success and competing with myself and all those types of things, I had to start to weed out some of the negative people and the people who just did not have the same values. Again, not that they're bad people. I still think they're friends. So how did I do that? I started cutting down on my frequency, my intensity, duration if I was with them, and proximity. And it slowly fades away. You don't have to be mean about this stuff. They won't even know it happens. The brain does not pick up on this stuff because it's completely socially normal to bond with other people through these 4 steps. These 4, I shouldn't call them steps, but these 4 things. Other people will not even know what you're doing if you toy around with these things. They will pick up on it, on that gut reaction. And the reason they'll pick up on it is because of your lizard brain. Your lizard brain is always scanning, picking up on this stuff. It's not something the conscious brain thinks about, the human brain thinks about. So I thought that was just something cool to share with you. You can use it in any type of relationship, building it up or tearing it down. So let's get into some mind magic, or the beginning, I should say, of knowing what other people are thinking. This is super important. The gentleman that coaches myself, Matt Fury, is like a modern day Terminator with this stuff. The first time I met him, you could see his eyes just kind of scanning nice and easy, my body language, what I was wearing. And he was processing it in terms of reading me, figuring what I was about. Was I somebody that he would want to take on as a client? It's because this is second nature to him. And something only becomes second nature, if you remember from the brain dominance episode, when we move down the line of education, meaning you have to learn this stuff over and over and over and over again. You can do first pass, like if I just read somebody's body language books one time, I would never get it. If I became competent, I might pick up on stuff here and there, particularly with the people that I know best in my life, like Devin and Braxton when he's older, or some of my close friends or my brothers. And then if I moved into fluency, I'd be able to get pretty good at reading every situation. Wouldn't be perfect at it. And finally, the more I study this stuff and the more I study the mind, I can move down that path towards mastery where you can essentially know what everybody is thinking that is around you in relation to yourself or the situation. The reason that body language is so fascinating and the reason that nonverbals are so reliable is because the way the brain is layered. Remember, we have the lizard brain, the reptile brain, the mammal brain, and then the human brain. The limbic brain, the limbic system, that's the oldest part of our brain, the lizard brain, the reptile brain, never shuts off. Go back to what I've been saying all along in terms of everything the brain does and everything the nervous system does is for survival. That is first and foremost. That lizard brain, that reptile brain never shuts off. It's always scanning the environments. It reacts first. It cannot lie. The lying brain, or the most dishonest brain, is the human brain, the newest part of the brain. It does this for a few reasons. The reason it will lie. Number one, it can lie. Okay, the limbic system, the lizard brain cannot lie. It's a gut or visceral reaction. And people lie a lot of the times, not necessarily because they're trying to be malicious or deceitful, but because they're trying to protect the feelings of those people that they're with. We know intuitively as human beings that judgment is very threatening and confrontation is very threatening to the brain. You may not have been able to verbalize that before, but you know it when you see it and you know the feeling. Sometimes we have to lie and let people down easy. If they knew how to read our body language, they would know the real story. I've always been one when I've had issues with other people. I know it comes out in my body language big time. I'm a very kinesthetic person. I cannot hide my feelings. Even though I'm aware of this stuff, it's still impossible. You'd have to be a true master. But even then, I don't think it could work all the way of hiding your body language to hide from others what you're really feeling or saying. It's important to note, and maybe I talked about this in the episode about your brain is hell-bent on survival, the hierarchy of the stress response when we're going to learn about body language. You have three phases of the sympathetic nervous system. You have the freeze, flight, and fight. Let's review them. Freeze is if I was out near the river when I take the dogs and sometimes Braxton out every morning and the dogs ran off and a big black bear comes my way. And I know I'm in an open field. I can't outrun it. Let's say it's a big boy, 600-pounder. I've got no shot at defending myself against it. What would most likely happen is that I would pass out and freeze. A predator will not kill something or eat something that it thinks something else has killed. That's what scavengers do, not predators, not the kings. So you have the freeze response. And we'll get to how that applies to everyday life in just a few minutes. You have the flight response. That's running. That's getting away from the situation. If I knew the guy across from me could kick my butt and I had the opportunity to get away from it, I'd be stupid to stay and fight. And think about this as you're listening to this. This hierarchy, freeze, flight, fight, goes from giving you the greatest chance of survival, freeze, to flight, to fight, which is the least chance of survival when there's actual physical altercation. Again, it's brilliant how the brain works. Brilliant how the brain works. And think about it for a second. The stress response that you experience when you work out is a sympathetic nervous system response. You're in fight mode. If you've been doing it long enough, your brain knows it's a safe place to be. So you're ramping up adrenaline, you're ramping up stress hormones. However, you're starting to feel really good because of all the growth factors and endorphins that are kicking up to the brain. If it's your first time into a gym or a new environment where you're working out, it's very frightening for people because they're entering a fight. I'm doing quote unquote in the air, a fight stage. The brain might also be picking up on fake or perceived judgment or non-existent judgment. So it's very threatening when people first walk in to see this stuff or to deal with it. But that's kind of going off on a side tangent, thinking about what you're actually doing when you're working out. Important to note as well. I'm just going through my notes here to make sure I'm covering everything for you. What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally, it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time. When your emotions are up, the way the brain is layered, your logic is down. The emotional reaction, the gut reaction, comes from a deeper part of the brain. When the mammal brain is all emotional or our survival is at stake, logic goes out the window. So why would logic go out the window? Logic goes out the window because the limbic system is going to need all the available resources to ensure cerebral resources, brain resources to ensure our survival. When you know that someone close to you is overly emotional, don't try to explain things to them and use logic. Does not work. When you have somebody that is tight ass and super anal and overly type A and analytical, emotion most of the time is not going to work on them, or they're not going to be able to relate to it. So if logic is extremely high and linear thought is extremely high, emotion is going to be diminished. Those two parts of your brain don't function necessarily the best together. The limbic system, the lizard brain, the reptile brain is also going to leak out into the rest of your body. As I was saying at the beginning of this, it can't lie. It leaks out because it's always preparing you for survival. So if you were being interrogated, let's say, whether it be by your husband or your wife or an actual police officer because you committed something wrong, or your boss, remember that the brain is very threatened by judgment, confrontation, and the like. So let me get into actually some of the body language, starting with pacifying behaviors. So why would somebody want to use a pacifying behavior? Think about a baby. A baby or a toddler, Devin goes nuts because I still let Braxton have his pacifier from time to time, is very pacifying. It calms them down. It soothes them. Braxton will actually put his in many times and he'll make a humming noise that sounds like this. What he's doing, and it's amazing because he didn't have to be taught that. He's hitting the vagus nerve, the vagal nerve, which is located in the neck. That's why humming and stuff like that, pacifiers, calm us down. When we do belly breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, and have the diaphragm work and the belly rises up, that's a calming breathing technique, one that's been in yoga and meditation for thousands of years. These people didn't need to know the medical science behind it. They knew it calmed the body down because of the vagal nerve. You have to breathe out through the mouth to hit the vagal nerve, or humming like I just demonstrated with Braxton has to come from that part of your neck. So pacifying behaviors are there to calm us down, to make us comfortable, to soothe us. The first one that you'll see mainly in females is covering of the neck dimples. This will help them pacify insecurities, emotional discomfort, fear, or any other concerns that are happening in real time. With females as well, and I suppose males could do this, when they start playing with their necklace, this is also a pacifying behavior. You know they're insecure or something's off or they're scared about something. You don't need to know what, but you could probably relate it to whatever the topic is that you're going over with them or that just came up. So watch for this stuff in all types of social situations. The brain requires that we touch the body in an area that's going to release endorphins to calm us down. Again, the neck areas. The face is a very, very sensory rich area. And going back to what I was saying with Braxton with the pacifiers, if you ever find yourself in a really stressed out situation and you can't seem to calm down, Start by just touching your lips. I'm actually doing it right now. Touching your lips. That is the first point when we're born of sensory-rich nerve endings. That's why babies are always putting things in their mouth. You don't have to worry about them choking most of the time. They're not doing it to swallow it. They're doing it to learn about it. The pacifier, the way it comes out over their lips, that was designed like that on purpose. But that's a go-to that you can do at any time if you need to help clear your mind, and then you would go into your breathing. When it comes to pacifying behaviors, men prefer to touch their face, facial touching. Women prefer their necks, their jewelry, their arms, their hair. When we touch any of these pacifying areas, again, with the release of endorphins and stimulating the vagal nerve, blood pressure is going to come down, heart rate's going to come down. The individual is going to begin to calm down themselves, which is the whole point of this stuff. If you think about survival things, and Devin being pregnant right now, she's due here in a couple weeks with baby number 2. You can observe a pregnant woman, many times they will begin to go for that area, that notch on their neck or the necklace. And all of a sudden, that hand will drop to cover the belly or bring it down to the belly. That's a motherly instinct to protect the fetus or the baby. The reason that females have a larger anterior cingulate cortex in their brain is because their job, evolutionary, however you say that, was to ensure survival and bond with the offspring to make sure that they got what they needed to carry on and they could reproduce and so on and so forth. So the brain, this is not stuff I'm making up. The brain is hell-bent on carrying on the survival of the species. So just fascinating if you ever see a pregnant woman and how they react when they're in an uncomfortable situation. Right now, lift your chin up and just kind of grab right above your Adam's apple and just kind of squeeze that area, rub it. Again, this is something that you can do and you can teach your kids to do, or students if you're a teacher, to do when they need to calm down. But that is a pacifying behavior. And I think it's important that you know this stuff because you could always reverse engineer this stuff. So you can either look for it in others, be aware of it in yourself, or use some of these techniques to calm yourself down. Remember, I'm a big proponent of reverse engineering and using stuff in kind of hacking your body, so to speak. Yawning does not always mean you're tired. Many times that's to alert us to actually relieve a dry mouth. The dry mouth is a sign of stress. Some of the structures, when we yawn, will put pressure on the salivary glands, which will produce saliva and get rid of that dry mouth response. You'll see people when they give speeches and they get that white cake on their lips, or TV people, they get that because that's a stress response. Doesn't matter how long they've been doing it. They have a stress response because the brain, the limbic system, the lizard brain, the oldest part of the brain, cannot lie, and it still perceives judgment, and it's very threatened by judgment. So no matter how seasoned the person is, sometimes you'll still see them with their lips caking up. Sometimes, yes, they're dehydrated as well, but not always. Look for leg cleansing, taking the hands, running them down the legs. What this is doing is drying the sweaty palms off and kind of clearing that. Again, kind of a reverse engineering type of thing. It happens very quickly in response to a negative event. So pay attention for leg cleansing. When people are taking their hand, and you can try that right now, and brushing it down their leg. The body hug, the self-administered body hug, as this author says. Look for it when people kind of wrap their arms around their body. So a little different than crossed arms, but really kind of hugging themselves. Hugging is very soothing to other people. So again, reverse engineer that. If it feels good when somebody else does it to you and it comforts you, like when mom gives a baby a hug or a toddler a hug, then hugging yourself can serve the same response. So that's where I'm going to stop today. I don't like to go too long. I like you to be able to absorb all this and use it. I will be doing another one of these in a couple weeks. Again, there's a lot of information. I just think this stuff's fascinating. And start connecting the dots with how this body language and how the brain connects to your body and your fitness and your health. It all goes together to help you unlock that inner strength. As always, please tell someone else about the show if you like it. Let me know what you want to hear about. Don't forget to go to the website, unlockingyourinnerstrength.com, and get on the email list. And I will talk to you next week. Peace.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.